everybody, I'm Summer and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to teach you how to paint the Earth's only satellite, the moon. So the picture behind me is one that I painted. It's a half moon, but today we're going to do a whole moon. Really cool feature about this painting is that it glows in the dark. Yes, it glows in the dark. How cool is that? So stick with me and let's have some fun and create our own moons together. So the three main colors we're going to be using today is titanium white, Mars black, and ivory black. If you don't have both colors, titanium white and Mars black is perfect, or any color black that you have. We will also be using stiff, like old stiff brushes that you can use just to pound the crap out of the canvas with and stipple, and I'll show you that in a minute. And a small round brush for a little bit of detail, and a small filbert also for a little bit of detail. First, we're going to start off with a 10 by 10 white canvas. And then we're going to put on either black gesso or black paint. So it's going to go from this to this. Now, while this dries, because it's still a little tacky, I'm going to go swap out some laundry and I'll see you in a minute. All right, laundry swap successful. So first things first, I want to draw our moon. Today I'm going to be using this Tupperware bowl as my shape. And you can place it anywhere you want. You can place it in the center, you can place it slightly off to the sides. I like to place it slightly off to the sides. I just think it looks cool. I like to use these watercolor pencils to draw because if I don't like it, you can use water on a damp cloth and just wipe it off. If you use graphite pencils, it's on there. So let's place our shape onto our canvas and then outline it. Go over twice just to make sure I got the shape I want. Ta-da! And that will be the beginnings of our moon. So first I'm going to start with this brush. This is actually a Waverly stencil brush, and I'm going to dip into my titanium white, grab a healthy dose of it, and just start moving it around the canvas. Fill in that circle. And it's okay if it's blobby or a little bit see-through. We're going to be doing lots of layers on this. And then let me put my little stopper here so my canvas doesn't bounce around too much. So just kind of put lots of white on there. You can kind of brush it around if you want to fill it in. And then just kind of pounce it on there a little bit to give it a little texture. Okay, so just for right now, we're just filling in our moon with white. A nice thick fat layer of white. Now, if you're getting a little close to the edge and you're not feeling comfortable, that's where that little round brush comes in. So you take that little round brush and dip it in your white. Like, you don't even have to dip your brush in water. Dip it in white and then kind of go around the edges a little bit. Now remember, the moon isn't perfectly round. It does have craters and pock marks and things. So you don't have to worry about your moon being perfectly round. I apologize for my neighbor working on his Corvette across the street. Although it is a sweet Corvette, that revving is annoying. Okay, so just keep doing this. Go around the edges, filling it in. We'll clean up those edges in a little bit. It's a cool thing about black canvas, little black paint, fix you right up. Now, sometimes I find I like to flip my canvas. Oh, sorry, talking with a brush in my mouth. I like to flip my canvas. Make sure I get all the spots. Brush by just kind of rubbing it in. Because my gesso wasn't completely 100% dry, which was fine, I get like a nice light gray, or even if it was dry, it kind of shines through the white. So it does have a nice little gray tone. Everything's making noise up in here. Okay. One little last piece down here. This part requires the most patience. Filling it in. Like I said, we can always fix it with a little bit of black around the edges. Not a problem. Alright, now take a step back and look at your moon. Looking good. Okay, so back to our big fat brush here. We're gonna go back into that white and grab a bunch of it, and then we're just gonna blot it on there. Just gonna blot it on there and give our moon some texture. See, I am pulling up some of that gesso, but that's perfectly okay. It's all about layers. We're gonna do layers and more layers. Get as close to the edge as you can. That's what I have, a smaller, stiffer brush for those. Oops. Okay, so I'll take my smaller, stiffer brush that I have here. It's a flat brush. It's a Artist Loft from Michaels. And just kind of do the edges. Get as close up of those edges as you can. Some of the edges will kind of look smooth. I have taken plenty of pictures of the moon. And if you look at close, you can see like the divots from the craters. But you also see that some of it looks almost smooth. Just the way that the light clears on it. So it's okay to have a couple of edges that look smooth. Like I said, don't worry about going out of the line. We can fix that later. All right. So now that we have that all filled in, that looks really cool. We're gonna let this sit and dry for a minute until it gets a little tacky so we can add some more layers to it. But yeah, I think our moon's looking good. Has a nice texture to it, has a nice color to it. And let's give this, I'd say 7 to 10 minutes to chill. And then we'll come back when it's tacky and we'll start adding in some more detail and depth. Okay, so my painting's tacky and I readjusted my camera so y'all could see a little bit better what I'm doing here. So we're gonna go back with that same Waverly brush. I rinsed it out so it's a little damp. And we're gonna grab our white again. And we're gonna just pick highlighting spots at this point. Like I wanna highlight up here. And then I'm gonna make it to where the sun's coming in from this way. So I wanna put a highlight up in here. So this is gonna be darker. Okay, we're gonna put our highlight to the left and kind of down towards the bottom. So this is working our second layer, our light layer. Okay, so the sun's coming in from the left. So it, like I said, it is tacky, so it will pull up some of the paint from the layer beneath and give it just a light gray tint to our white. Let me go ahead and put this down a little bit so I can lock it in. That's the thing about this, is your canvas is gonna bounce all over the place. Well, mine does anyway. I beat the crap out of my canvases. Okay. So while that's doing its thing, go ahead and just take, here, let me show you. So I'm gonna go with my Ivory Black. I'm just gonna take just a little bit. Do you see that? Just a smidge at the tips of my brushes, and I'm gonna start making where I think the craters are gonna go. So I think I want a crater here. Doesn't have to look exactly like the moon you see outside, or if you wanna pull up a picture of the moon from the internet, you can do that. I'll post a couple of pictures of the moon on my Facebook page and put the link below. And then you can use those as references if you want. And then since I'm giving you permission, you don't have to worry about if you're, you know, stealing anybody's copyright. So we'll just kind of make a spot for a crater there. Grab a little bit more. I grabbed a little bit more black this time. I'm just gonna kind of pop it in a few places and then take my brush on the side. And then these will create the rims. And then kind of just straight on. Blend it into the paint that you have on underneath. See like how that looks like a rim? We'll give this a little rim here. I almost said something not appropriate. And just, I kind of twirl my brush a little bit as I do this. Kind of just blend it all together. Pull it down into here. And see how we're starting to develop depth into our moon. Just kind of drag it all over the place. See some place that's a little too bright. Or if you think you made it too dark on accident, which is fine, we can lighten it up. That's not a problem. So the thing about the moon, it's all about making layers upon layers. So see, we're getting our moon developed now. I'm gonna grab maybe a little smidgen of white. I don't rinse off my brush unless it's absolutely necessary. I'm gonna take a little bit of my Mars Black. That noise you hear, it's me dabbing out my palette, kind of break it into the bristles. Kind of highlight these spots I made dark. Now I'm just going to take my brush and just wipe it on a cloth. And like I said, I'm not even going to rinse it with water. I'm just going to wipe it. So there's a little black in there, a little gray left over, and then just kind of smooth these out. Some spots, I'm just going to, like right there, I'm going to just leave that alone. I like how that looks. I'm just going to leave that alone. Here, it's too much of a rigid line for my taste. So I'm going to smooth out that line a little bit. Don't worry about getting too close to the edge. Like I said, we have ways to fix that up. Okay. Grab a little bit more white. kind of dab that into my brush a little bit. You'll hear my palette bouncing off the table here. Take a little bit more white, maybe. Some in here. Use the side. Look, get like, that's really cool. Use the side, get like a mix of those colors. Sorry, I forgot to put my phone on silent. Alright, so. Okay, maybe that's a little too dark for me. I'll go back through there in just a second. So that's my moon so far. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw that brush into the water. I'm going to take my smaller brush and then I'm just going to start adding a little bit of detail. So that's me pounding it into some white. Remember, I wanted this side a little bit lighter. So we're going to highlight some of this in here. Just like that. That looks good. I'm going to highlight some more down in here. Maybe leave that edge just a little bit dark. Throw a couple highlights in up at the top. This is looking a little gloomy in here, so let's highlight some of that out. There we go. So this is the other thing, it's just, you think it's too much, take it out. Okay, now I'm going to take that brush, I'm going to wipe it on my cloth to get as much of that white out as possible. Grab some more of my Mars Black, dab it into my brush, my bristles, so it's all, see how it's all pushed into the bristles like that. And then we're going to go in here. Start highlighting, or not highlighting these, actually shadowing and shading. Shadowing and shading, making us some peaks and valleys. Giving our moon some depth. Like that. Like I said, this is not the exact moon. This is kind of the moon how I imagine it. Grab a little bit more black, push it into those bristles again. Kind of just mull it around a little bit. Maybe put a little bit in here. It's the moon how I imagine it. Just barely tap those in just to tone those down a little bit. I thought those were a little too bright for my taste. Now I'm going to rinse that brush. I'm going to grab a little bit more white, just the slightest, just the tip here, and just kind of pick places to really make them shine. Those will be our peaks. Shadows are valleys, highlighted whites are our peaks. So probably might want to put a little bit there to show that when the sun hits, the shadow goes in there, so maybe you want to lighten that up a little bit. Make it make a little sense. Or not. Or not. Now if you really want to add a little bit more detail, which is, it's fine that you can leave it as is. This is the way you like it, leave it. If you want to add more, I have this smaller stencil brush. Stencil brushes are great for this project. So I have these stiff little stencil brushes in different sizes. Press the white into there. Kind of just pick little spots that you want to highlight. Obviously the more white on your brush, the more white, like here, we'll just do it in here, the more white that's going to get on there. Like that. And then I'm also going to use this to go around my edges to kind of just reinforce the highlight that I wanted on those edges. You can mess around with it as little as much as you want. The more layers you do, the more intricate it's gonna get. I'm a big fan of lots of layers. Let me go make us a little peek in here. Make your own moon. Study the picture of the moon itself and then try this again. Try to make it look as close to a picture or what you see at night as possible. Like that. I like it. Maybe go back with a little bit of black. Blend that in. Touch a little bit more black. From black to these darker areas. Kind of soften their edges a little bit. And there you have it. So this is our second layer for our moon. I'm going to let this dry till this gets tacky again, and then we're going to come back and we're going to play with it once more and kind of do our final touches. We need this a little bit dry so we could add a couple more layers to it, really intensify our peaks and valleys and colors that we have going on. But it's looking good so far. And, yeah, sit back. Have a nice hot cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever have you, and just kind of figure out where we're going to really do some highlights and some lowlights when we come back in 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, now we're back. I cheated a little bit. I used a hairdryer because I was being impatient. When I'm on a roll or if I'm limited on time or whatever, I definitely I definitely will not shy away from using a hairdryer. That's the really cool thing about acrylic painting. The hairdryer can speed up your process. So we're gonna go back with that small stencil brush. And I'm gonna put white on here, and I'm just gonna go, and I saw a couple places that I really would like to just highlight and really just make them shine, literally. Because that's what the moon's doing for us at night. It's shining with the reflection of the sun, the light from the sun. I'll throw a little science lesson in there for you. Although I'm sure you already knew that. So like I said, I really want this side to be bright. I really want this side to be my focal. This is really what my focal point for my light. So I think I achieved that. Now I see up here it's a little bright, and that's cool because I'm just gonna go through and put a little white up here. Just the ever so slightest. Kind of blot that in a little bit. Just to create some visual interest. Yeah, I like that. This is where you can get fun with it. Pick spots where you really want that. I like that. So I'm going to go back with the black. I'm not even going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to go back with the black, fill in some spots here. There's a little hair from my brush fell out. Some more in here. So that's a little too dark. That's fine, because I'll just go back, grab just a little bit of white, and kind of just swirl it into the edges, blot it into the edges, just soften it. It's really all you have to do. Just soften, like go in, pull it back out a little bit. There we go. Maybe grab another little smidge of white. Put a little ridge in here. Separate out our... Very cool. I like where this is going. See, it's all with layers. So we went through our... What the hell am I doing face? Oops! What the heck am I doing face? Sorry. To, hey, not half bad. Go me. Okay, so I kind of really like that. Except for this little blob here is kicking my butt. Not a big fan of this blob, so I'm gonna work on this a little bit. Soften and tone down. There we go. I like that now. And just kind of come in here a little bit. Cut that out a little bit. Soften around there a little bit. I'm telling you, you can play with this all day and make different shapes or whatever have you. All right, so now that I have that the way I want, I'm going to take this filbert and I'm going to get it wet. And then I'm going to just grab a little bit of white, just the slightest bit of white. Just go around the edges there. We're just going to make them a little crisp. Make it pop. It's real subtle, but when you stand back and look at it, it makes a real big difference. Just ever so lightly touch your canvas. And then you can come over here, like different places where we highlighted, and just kind of give it a little bit here, little tweaks here and there. There we go. That looks nice. Now if you want to go in the center and like where we made like these little ridge lines and stuff, you kind of want to highlight those, maybe touch those just a little bit. See, make a little more definition to my ridge line. And you don't have to do a straight line. If it does start looking straight, just kind of pull out and feather it a little bit. Just touch your canvas just very so slightly. And if that, to me, that looks too straight, I'll just go back, grab my little brush that I rinsed out. Oh, let me wipe some of the water off of it. With no paint on it because that paint on there is still wet. Just kind of tap it in there. See? And it gives us our texture back. Same thing with here. If you feel like you're losing texture, just go back and touch over it. Very cool. Okay, now this is the final layer before we get to do the cool fun stuff, which is the glow in the dark paint. So we really want those craters to stick out because if we look at pictures of the moon, those craters really pop, right? So if you have a small detail brush, like this small one, or these are my favorites, these are actually etching tools, but I like to dip them in paint and play with them because they give a really cool effect. So I'm going to take my big fat etching tool. Well, here, I'll show you how to do it with a brush first, and then I'm going to go back to my etching tool. So I'm going to go to this little detail brush here and just kind of, oops, I need more paint on that. Get a little bit more paint on it. And just kind of, there. Give your moon a couple little spots that just really stick out. Just a little dab will do ya. A couple little dabs here. There. Give you a few little just little marks that stick out. Now with the little etching tool that I have, now you can do that with a brush, you can do that with all different, as long as they're small detail brushes. My other favorite brush to use I didn't have it out. I'm sorry. One of my other favorite brushes to use, and I know this is crazy, is these Crayola round brushes. They come in like a pack of 4 or 5. All the different sizes and stuff, I flippin' love them. They stay pointy. You can beat the crap out of course, they're made for kids, so you can just beat the daylights out of them. But see, they also, you can do little circles. All right. I roll it around in the white paint. Just roll it around in the white paint. Yeah, but these little Crayola guys, man, they're magic. They come in all different sizes, shapes. The little Crayola round brushes. They're little workhorses. So see, you can just, like I said, add little minute details. Little details make the difference. If you step back and take a look at your moon, you're like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Also, if you're curious, NASA has free photos of the moon. Obviously, we pay for NASA. But NASA has some really cool pictures of the moon, of Earth, of different nebula, and different nebulas. You can go and check them out. I like looking at them. I love the colors. Okay. So, I think I might be done. I always say that, and then I go back and touch more stuff. Okay, for real, I think I'm done now. I'll sit here and mess with this forever. So I think I'm done with that for now. Okay, so whenever you're done, you can go ahead and wrap it up. I'll show you how cool these little etching tools are real quick though. So you just dab a little paint on there and you can pretty much do whatever you want at that point. I'm gonna add that little guy. He's a little too big, so I'll just smush him with my finger. Oh yeah, and don't be afraid to smush stuff with your finger either. Touch it. Finger paint, that's always fun. See? Just kind of smashed that blob and made it look 10 times better. Cool. Alrighty, so we're gonna let that dry, and by dry I mean I'm gonna use my hair dryer and I'm gonna dry all this, and then we're gonna clean up the edges, and then we're gonna add our glow-in-the-dark paint. Alright, now this is dry, we're gonna go ahead and clean up our edges. We're gonna go back to that round brush that we were using earlier and make sure that's all rinsed out and clean. It can be a little damp, actually I prefer it to be a little damp. Now go back and get some Mars, like roll your brush around and put some Mars Black on it. And what you're going to do is you're going to carefully go around the edges and clean up any of the marks that got outside of your circle. Like that. And then it's almost like an eraser. So just carefully go around the edges. Just roll it around in your paint. And go around your edges. Breathe while you do it. I find myself holding my breath every time I do this. Don't forget to breathe. See, like I got a couple little spare guys that got out here. We'll just tap them and they go away. I like to turn my painting as I go. Yeah, this part is going to probably be the hardest thing you'll do, is to clean it. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Remember, the moon's not perfectly round. Although to our naked eye it looks perfectly round, it's not. All right. Now, I see this side looks a little lopsided, okay? That's my personal preference. So that's when you go back through and grab a little white, rinse your brush a little bit, grab a little white, maybe touch a little black, get it to, I'm gonna get mine to like a, I wanna call it like a medium grayish color. And I'm just gonna fix right here. Like I said, this is the hardest part, but don't forget to breathe. Okay. Just a little bit of water. My paint's getting a little thick and my brush is getting a little dry. And that water will help move it around. It's rounded off and that makes me happy, and with the paint being a little bit on the thinner side, you do see some of the black coming through, so it's not, it doesn't look like a painted solid line. And then right here, of course, this is where the perfectionist in me always kills me. There we go. There, that makes me happy. And I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry. Or as I like to say, use my blow dryer. And let that dry, and then we're gonna go back with some glow-in-the-dark paint. All right, here comes the glow-in-the-dark portion of today. So you can use this, what you can get, it's called Craft Smart Glow in the Dark. You can get this from Michael's, or my other favorite that I like to use is MX24 from Glowmania. This is like professional pigmented glow in the dark paint that charges with UV light or sunlight. This stuff is really expensive. So if you're on a budget, totally go with this. It's like a couple of bucks, like $2 for this. If you want to get fancy, you could buy this, and I think this little jar is about 10 bucks. It's not much, but a little of this goes a long way. I'm going to be using this and these little sponge brushes that you can get. I'm going to tap it on there. So I'm going to use just what's on the lid. And kind of tap it on there. Start in one spot. There we go. And then work around. This also helps with the texture too. And the cool thing about this is this stuff dries clear. So all your beautiful color and stuff's gonna come through. So this is really heavily pigmented stuff. So if you use the craft one that I showed you, which is fine, that's what I used for a long time till I discovered this stuff. I would recommend do 2 layers of it. It also dries clear. But like with anything, you put too much and you will see. Now that I'm completely finished putting on all of my glow-in-the-dark paint, I'm just gonna let it dry, and as you see, it's starting to dry now, and like I said, it does dry clear, and you can see your beautiful colors and your textures popping through. So I'm gonna give this about 2 to 3 minutes to dry. This stuff dries fairly quickly, and then I'm gonna show you how cool it is when it glows in the dark.